Structuring digital transformation is a complex task for established businesses. We talk about digital transformers when we mean companies who have a history of many years, decades, even centuries. They come on a positive side with an history. If you want to frame it negatively, they come with a legacy. They have established infrastructure, buildings, machinery, patents, other forms of intellectual property, know-how. They have employees, they have a brand, they have a reputation, and the like. And the question now is, how do they transform their old business, which might have been very successful, to the new types of digitalization, where technologies, markets, customer demands, competition, and the like change? Well, besides these digital transformers, we also have the digital naives, and you see from the image what I expect will happen to them. And on the other hand side, we have the digital natives, the companies basically born, as far as a company can be born, in the digital age. Examples are Google, Uber, PayPal, and Zalando. These are rather young companies. When starting off, they didn't have this legacy, this history. They didn't have to do the transformation. They started in the digital age, and in fact, many of these companies shape the digital age. Now, what many digital transformers do is looking at these digital natives and trying to copy them. And that's a questionable approach. I mean, definitely these companies on the right-hand side, these digital natives, have something special. It might be interesting to study their models and their success factors. But then, typically for a company coming with history and legacy, it will be very challenging, up to impossible, to compete with these digital natives on their terms. And it would be a pity to do so and to forget about all the positive aspects of the history and the assets. Thus the question is, how should these digital transformers approach digital transformation if it's more complex than copying the digital natives? Before continuing with that thought, I would like you to consider this quote from Angela Merkel. She said this in 2004. At that time she was chairwoman of the CDU, but not yet Chancellor of Germany. She said in 2004, "In the eye of globalization and computerization, the beautiful things of life, such as potatoes or stew boil, must not be neglected. Such centuries-old abilities must not be lost." Well, what's your perspective on that statement? Reflect a little on it. Let's discuss on it. Now let's move back to the companies. What my colleague Maximilian Röcklinger from University of Bayreuth and I did is approaching many different companies and asking them exactly the question I posed before. How do you approach digital transformation? What action fields do you have? What's your strategy? What changes in your environment do you see? What is digitalization and digital transformation in the first place from your corporate perspective? We approached more than 50 companies. You see here some description of the sample. In terms of revenue, we had very small companies with something like 10 million euro revenue per year, up to global companies with 70 billion euros revenue per year. Less than 100 employees to multiple 100,000 employees, a focus on Germany, but also an international perspective, business to consumer and business to business companies, service and manufacturing companies. And for all these, we approached them and said, we would like to talk to the person in charge of digital transformation in your company. For some parts, this was a CIO, Chief Information Officer. For some, it was a CIO, as in Chief Innovation Officer. Some had a Chief Digital Officer and the like. Sometimes we talked to the Managing Director or the Head of IT. Some had program leads for digitalization. Others had responsibility located in the strategy department, in business development, or even in communication. So a whole range of different interview partners, but for each of these companies, the one person being in charge for digital transformation. And we had interviews with them. Later on, in subsequent round with many other companies, we had workshops and discussion further. We did applied research projects with some of these. And from all that, we tried to distill what are the fields of action of digital transformation. The result, two publications. One, the more practice-oriented, published in 2015 from Fraunhofer. The other, updated and extended version with a more science-oriented presentation, published in 2018 in the Journal of Information Technology, Theory and Application. And at the core, it came down to 6 different fields of action which you can use to describe digital transformation activities by companies across different industries, across different sizes, across different countries. The 6 fields of action are customer, value proposition, data, organization, operations, and transformation management. To learn more about that, I would suggest you read this science-oriented presentation which we published in 2018.